It was supposed to be just another bus ride home. The kind of ride that felt slow and sticky in the late afternoon heat, windows half open, worn leather seats that creaked with every turn, and people lost in their own worlds. For 17-year-old Jamal Carter, this route was as familiar as the back of his hand. He knew every crack in the pavement the tires would roll over, every stop sign where the bus would hiss and slow, and every kind of face that got on and off in the city's long stretch from downtown to the east side. He wasn't thinking about anything special that day. His earbuds were in, backpack wedged between his feet, and his hoodie pulled halfway over his head, even though the sun outside made it unnecessary. He was just riding, trying to get home, trying to make it through another day of school, part-time job stress, and the quiet kind of tired that settled deep in his bones. That kind of tired that didn't come from just moving, but from holding it all together. The bus pulled up to the next stop with a soft screech, and the doors groaned open. A group of people stepped on, but one figure caught Jamal's attention almost instantly. A white woman, maybe late 20s or early 30s, clearly pregnant, with one hand on her stomach and the other gripping a paper bag of groceries. She looked flushed, like the heat had gotten to her, and she glanced nervously at the full rows of seats ahead. No one moved. People shifted their eyes, pretended not to see her, or stared out the window. One man near the front even glanced up and went back to scrolling through his phone like nothing happened. Jamal watched her sway slightly as the bus jolted forward again, her hand tightening on the pole. He didn't think about it for long. Quietly, he pulled out his earbuds, stood up, and tapped her gently on the shoulder. "Ma'am," he said with a respectful nod, "you can have my seat." She looked surprised. Not in a rude way, just like she hadn't expected kindness at that moment. Her eyes met his for the briefest second, tired, thankful, maybe even a little suspicious at first, but then she smiled and took the seat with a soft, "Thank you." Jamal nodded again, shifted to stand holding one of the overhead bars, and plugged his earbuds back in. He didn't think anything more of it, but someone else did. She watched him through the window's reflection for the rest of the ride, occasionally glancing down into her purse, her hand hesitating over something. There was something unspoken about the way she kept looking at him. Not just polite gratitude. Something else. Something deeper. It wasn't till her stop arrived 3 before Jamal's that she stood slowly and turned to face him again. The other passengers barely noticed. The bus was still groaning along its route, kids laughing in the back, an older man asleep with his head on the window. But she looked directly at Jamal, reached into her purse, and handed him a folded note. Didn't say anything else, just pressed it into his hand with the soft touch of someone who had decided something important, then stepped off the bus and disappeared down the sidewalk. Jamal stared at the paper. It was old school, not a text, not a DM, a handwritten note, folded twice. It felt strange in his hand, soft but purposeful, like it carried weight. He hesitated before opening it. It wasn't that he expected anything wild, maybe a thank you, or a quote, or something simple, but something about her eyes when she handed it over. They had said more than her words ever could have. Finally, curiosity won. He opened it. The handwriting was neat, slanted, clearly written in a rush, but every word was deliberate. Jamal's eyes scanned the first line, and his whole body tensed. Whatever he expected, it wasn't this. It wasn't a thank you. It was a confession, a secret, a decision, and it was about him. He read the words again, just to make sure he hadn't misunderstood. But they didn't change. The message was clear. His pulse quickened. He looked around the bus, suddenly aware of the people, the noise, the movement, and yet everything felt distant. Like the world had just cracked open a little. Like a puzzle piece of his life had just been handed to him. And now nothing would ever be the same. He folded the note back up slowly, like it was fragile. Like it might break if he moved too fast. Then he sat down. He didn't get off at his usual stop. He rode 2 more stops past it, silent, staring out the window, the note in his hand. Because what the woman had written wasn't random. It was personal. It was connected to a part of Jamal's life he thought no one outside his family knew. Something he had buried, something that had shaped him, something painful. And now, this stranger had pulled it into the light. But how? Why? Who was she? And what did she really want? Jamal didn't have answers. Not yet. But deep down, he could feel it. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The note stayed gripped in Jamal's hand, like it was glued to his skin. He didn't dare unfold it again. Not yet. His mind was still spinning from the words. Not just what was written, but what they meant. The handwriting played in his memory. Like an echo, each line chipping away at everything he thought he knew about his day, his story, his life. When the bus reached the end of the line, the driver gave a quick glance in the rearview mirror. "Last stop," he called out, not even looking to see if anyone responded. Jamal stood up slowly, his legs feeling strange beneath him, like they weren't entirely sure where to go. He stepped off the bus onto the sidewalk, the late-day sun hitting his face, though he barely felt it. His eyes scanned the block, half expecting to see her again, the woman with the grocery bag and the quiet, mysterious eyes. But she was gone. Like a chapter closed before he had time to read it. He slipped the note into his hoodie pocket and started walking. It wasn't toward home. Not yet. He needed time to think, to process. Jamal took the long way around the neighborhood, cutting through a small park where old swing sets creaked and kids chased each other in dusty sneakers. He passed the basketball court, where he sometimes played with his cousin on weekends, and the corner store that still sold 5-cent gum. But today, the world felt different. Like something big had just tilted it sideways. He finally sat on a bench near the back of the park, away from everyone. Just birds, wind, and a silence that felt deep. He pulled the note out again, carefully this time, as if it had aged 100 years in the last hour. His fingers traced the edges, eyes falling on the words again. "You don't know me, but I know who you are. I recognized you the moment I saw your face. I've been looking for you. I've been waiting for this day. There's something I need to tell you, something about your mother." That was the first part. It was all it took to knock the air out of his chest. His mother. She'd passed away when he was just 8. The details were always murky. Everyone in the family called it a complicated time, and no one ever gave real answers. Just pieces like she had been involved in something serious, maybe even dangerous. A few whispers about her leaving town suddenly, before it happened. But it was never clear. Jamal remembered her soft voice, her bright laugh, the way she'd hum while folding laundry. But the memory had faded over time, blurred by the years, replaced by long nights of wondering and silence. No one ever talked about her much after the funeral, especially not his grandmother, who raised him after. And now this stranger said she knew something about his mom? Jamal folded the note again, tighter this time. He couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. That woman hadn't just been another passenger. She had known him. Not just recognized his face, but recognized his story. Something hidden, something buried, something people had spent years avoiding. And then he thought, how long had she been looking for him? Had she been watching him before? Today? How had she known he'd be on that bus, in that seat, at that exact time? Was it fate or something else? He sat there until the sun started to dip low, orange streaks cutting across the sky. Then finally, with a deep breath, he stood and walked home. His grandmother was in the kitchen when he arrived, humming to the radio, same as always. She was short, with soft silver curls and a quiet strength that filled the room. The kind of woman who never needed to raise her voice to be heard. "Hey, baby," she said without turning around. "Dinner in 10. "All right," Jamal answered, trying to keep his voice even. He sat at the table and watched her move around the kitchen. Something about her presence always made things feel safer. But tonight, he couldn't shake the feeling that the world outside had cracked open, and the crack was now spreading into his own home. He reached into his pocket, feeling the paper again, and suddenly wanted to ask her everything. About his mother, about the truth, but he held it in. Not yet. He wasn't ready. Instead, he pushed food around his plate, nodding to her stories about the neighbor's dog getting loose again, or how the preacher's car broke down in front of the barber shop. He smiled when she laughed. But inside, he was somewhere else. That night, when the house was quiet and the moonlight spilled across his bedroom wall, Jamal sat on his bed, the note in his lap again. He read it a third time, then a fourth, and he noticed something he'd missed before. The back of the paper, there was a number, a local number handwritten, just like the rest. No name, no extra message, just the digits dot. It was an invitation. Or maybe a challenge. He stared at it for a long time. His phone sat nearby on the desk. He reached for it, thumb hovering over the keypad. He didn't press the numbers, not yet. Instead, he saved the number into his phone under a fake name unknown note. Then he turned off the light and lay back in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Questions swirled around him like smoke. Who was she? What did she really want? And what, exactly, had his mother been involved in before she died? The city outside buzzed with night sounds cars in the distance, the hum of street lamps, someone shouting across the block. But Jamal was lost in thought, completely still. One thing was clear. This was no coincidence. And whatever this woman had brought into his life, it wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, Jamal woke up early, way earlier than usual for a Saturday. The sun hadn't even fully risen yet, but he couldn't sleep. The note had been running circles in his head all night. He felt like he was stuck in some kind of fog, half in the present, half somewhere far away, chasing shadows and questions. He sat on the edge of his bed, looking at the number again. The digits burned in his mind, like they had their own voice. The woman had said she knew something about his mother. Not guessed, not assumed, knew. And now he had this number, this one link between him and something he never even knew was missing. But calling it? That was the hard part. What if it was a trick? What if she got the wrong person? What if it was real? He got dressed, slowly pulled on his hoodie and grabbed his backpack. Instead of heading to the court or texting his friends like he usually would, he left a note for his grandmother saying he was heading out to study at the library. He wasn't going to the library. He needed answers. Instead, Jamal took a long walk to a part of the city he didn't usually go to, closer to downtown, where things felt older and more lived in. As he walked, he kept checking his surroundings. Not because he was scared, but because his senses were sharper. Now, like he was waiting for something to happen. He stopped at a quiet bench in a plaza, pulled out his phone, and stared at the number one more time. Then he called it. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then it clicked. But no one spoke. "Hello?" Jamal said, his voice low. There was silence. He waited. Then, finally, a woman's voice came through, soft but steady. It was her. "I knew you'd call." Jamal swallowed hard. "Who are you? I can't tell you everything right now, but I promise I will. There are things you need to know. About your mother, about who she really was, and about who you are." Jamal's hands tightened around the phone. "Why me? Why now?" There was a pause, Because someone else is looking for you too. Jamal's heart skipped. Who? The line crackled. It's not safe to talk on the phone, she said quickly. I need to show you something. Meet me at the East Park bus stop at 6 p.m. sharp. Come alone. Then the line went dead. Jamal sat frozen for a minute, staring at the screen like it might change. Someone else was looking for him? What did that even mean? He pocketed the phone, mind spinning, and started heading home. His steps were slower this time, like every street held a secret he hadn't noticed before. Back home, his grandmother was folding laundry when he came in. She looked at him over her glasses. You all right, baby? You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, Jamal lied, forcing a half smile. You sure? You've been real quiet lately. I'm just tired, he said. School stuff. She didn't press, just nodded slowly and went back to her folding. But later that afternoon, Jamal sat with her in the living room and watched her closely. He wanted to ask. He needed to ask. He just didn't know how. He finally cleared his throat. Grandma, do you ever think about Mom? She looked up from her knitting, her face softening. All the time, she said. She was my baby. What was she like? I mean, before everything. Before I lost her. His grandmother took a deep breath. Your mother was strong, brave, smarter than she let on. But she got mixed up in things that, well, I never fully understood myself. She kept a lot to herself. Thought she was protecting us. Jamal leaned forward. What kind of things? His grandmother hesitated. I don't know for sure. But there were people she trusted, and others she didn't. She left town once, for a few weeks. Said it was work, but she came back. Changed. Jamal blinked. Changed how? Like she'd seen something she wasn't supposed to, or maybe learned something she couldn't unlearn. After that, she was more careful, always watching the windows, always checking the locks. Did she ever tell you anything about who might have been following her? His grandmother paused, then looked him straight in the eyes. Jamal, why are you asking me all this now? He hesitated, then shook his head. No reason, just wondering. But she kept watching him like she knew there was more. And there was dot at 5:45 p.m. Jamal slipped out again, his backpack slung over his shoulder and the note folded tightly inside. The East Park bus stop was mostly empty when he arrived. Just an old man reading a newspaper and a young couple arguing softly near the bench. Jamal stood near the shelter, hands in his pockets, heart pounding in his ears. At exactly 6 p.m., a black car pulled up across the street. The passenger. Door opened, and there she was, the woman from the bus. This time she wasn't carrying groceries. She wore a plain coat and sunglasses, her posture calm but alert. She motioned for him to come over. Jamal crossed the street slowly, his nerves buzzing. When he reached the car, she opened the passenger door for him. Get in. He hesitated, then slid inside. The door closed behind him, and before he could speak, she pulled a folder from her coat and handed it to him. Inside were photos of his mother, not from when he was a kid, but from years before he was even born. Showed her in front of a building with a federal seal on it. Another showed her with a group of people in suits. And then a third photo, one that stopped Jamal cold. His mother, with the same woman who had just handed him the folder. Knew her, Jamal whispered. Yes, the woman said quietly. I did. Jamal looked at her. Who are you? She stared ahead, gripping the wheel. My name is Anna, and your mother and I. We worked together. She was part of something bigger than she ever told anyone. And she died trying to protect you from it. Jamal felt like the air had been sucked from the car. Protect me from what? Anna looked at him finally, directly. That's what we need to talk about. but we have to be careful. Because someone else wants what your mother hid. And now that they know you're alive, they won't stop until they find you." Jamal's stomach twisted. He had thought this was about kindness. About a seat on a bus. But this was something else entirely. Something far more dangerous. Jamal stared at Anna, his heart pounding harder with every word she spoke. The photos in his lap felt like pieces of a life he never knew existed. And now, just like that, they were his to hold. His mother hadn't been just a regular woman, struggling to raise her son in a rough neighborhood. She had lived a second life, one filled with secrets, danger, and decisions made in silence. And somehow, all of that was circling back to him. "What do they want?" he asked, his voice low but steady. "Why now?" Anna looked out the windshield, scanning the street as if she expected someone to be watching. "Because something has shifted. The people your mother was hiding from. They've found a lead. I don't know how much they know yet, but it's enough to get them moving again." "But who are they?" Jamal asked, almost whispering. She shook her head. "Private contractors. A kind who work in the shadows. They're not official government. But they've got deep connections, former military intelligence background. Your mother got involved with them years ago, back when she was recruited for a tech program. She didn't know what it really was until it was too late." Jamal frowned. "Tech program?" "Data engineering. High-level stuff. She helped design something that could track communication patterns across entire cities. It was supposed to be for national security, but they had other plans. Surveillance, manipulation, control. Your mother found out. She tried to walk away, but they wouldn't let her." Jamal tried to process it. "So she ran." Anna nodded. "And she hid you, changed her name, started over. But even in hiding, she knew they might catch up. That's why she gave me something. Something she wanted me to pass on to you when the time was right." Jamal looked at her sharply. "You had something this whole time? Why didn't you come sooner?" Anna's face changed something between guilt and fear. "Because I didn't know if you were safe. I had to wait until the signal came." "What signal?" She pulled a small flash drive from her coat pocket and held it out to him. "This." Jamal didn't take it. He just stared. Anna continued. "This drive contains the last messages your mother sent before she disappeared. She sent them through a secure channel, but it was set to release only if certain keywords were triggered in the network." He blinked. "What keywords?" "Your name," she said, "and your location." Jamal felt cold. She used you as the trigger? She trusted that the system wouldn't activate unless someone was truly looking for you. She built it that way, smart, like she always was. But now that the alert has been tripped, they know someone with access has moved. Which means time is short. Jamal finally reached out and took the drive, his hand trembling. "What's on it?" he asked. Anna glanced at him, eyes serious. "Instructions, evidence, and a choice." He swallowed hard. "What kind of choice?" But before she could answer, the sound of tires screeching echoed from behind the car. Anna's eyes snapped too. The rearview mirror. A black SUV had just turned the corner fast. Too fast for a quiet street like this. Jamal turned around, catching sight of it through the back window. The SUV slowed down suddenly, hovering across the intersection like it was waiting. "That's them," Anna said, starting the car. "We have to go." "Are you serious?" Jamal asked, gripping the door. "Yes," she said. "Now." She pulled away from the curb, steering calmly, but with speed. The SUV stayed back, but it was clearly following. Jamal kept glancing out. The rear window. The people inside, he couldn't see their faces, but their presence was clear. It wasn't casual. It was calculated. "Where are we going?" He asked, "There's a safe house a few miles from here. Somewhere we can plug in the drive without being traced. Once we unlock it, you'll know everything." Jamal clutched the flash drive in his fist like it was the only thing grounding him. The streets blurred past. Anna took back roads, side alleys, turning at odd angles, but the SUV kept finding them. It didn't speed up, didn't try to stop them. It just followed, like it was waiting for the right moment to strike. "How do they keep finding us?" Jamal asked, his voice rising. Anna didn't answer. She pulled out a small device from the dashboard, something that looked like a scanner, and swept it across the car. It beeped once, then again. Jamal watched her face darken. "They've planted a tracker," she muttered. Double quotes. "Where?" He asked. "I don't know yet, but we need to ditch the car now." They turned onto a quieter street, one lined with empty storefronts and boarded windows. Anna parked fast and shut off the engine. "Get out," she ordered. "Now." Jamal followed her into an alley, his heart racing. Behind them, the SUV turned the same corner. "They're close," he said, breathless. Anna pointed toward a set of fire escape stairs. "Up, go." Jamal climbed, 2 steps at a time, not daring to look down. Anna was close behind. They reached the rooftop of an old building, the city skyline stretching out ahead of them. From this height, they could see the SUV come to a stop. In the street below, 2 figures stepped out, dressed in plain black, no faces visible. "They're not police," Jamal whispered. "No," Anna said. "They're worse. What do they want with me?" "They think you know something, or that you have what your mother left behind. Either way, you're a threat to them now." Jamal turned to her. "But I don't even understand any of this." "You will," she said, "once we open the drive." She pulled out a small encrypted tablet from her bag, quickly plugging in the flash drive. The screen lit up with symbols and a prompt for a password. "What's the password?" he asked. Anna looked at him. "It's something only you would." "No, your mother would have chosen a memory. Something between you and her." Jamal's mind raced. Memories flickered. One night, years ago, before she died, his mom had told him a story before bed about a star. A specific one she pointed out every clear night. She called it Promise Star. He typed it in. The screen unlocked, and lines of code began to scroll across the screen. But before they could read it, a sharp sound cracked the air. A drone dotted. It appeared from behind the far building, hovering low. Then a second one. Then the rooftop door below them banged open. Jamal's heart stopped. Anna grabbed his hand. "They found us." The tablet was still open. The files were loading. Every second mattered now, but the footsteps were getting louder, closer. They were running out of time. And Jamal still didn't know what choice he was supposed to make.